All right. Listen, I'm gonna tell you, this was a rough day. There's nothing fun about this, you know. I am gonna include it in the show. I don't know the person. I've been around, I guess I can use this moment to talk about some things I've been around. Here's some things that's happened to me since I've been back from New York City, and this is in Texas. First, let me talk about New York City. So I went to the actor studio. I lived at a place on 38 21st Street. Apartment 3A3 was the first place I lived. Another one had apartment 5. It was in a flat at Gramercy Park in Manhattan. And I was living between Broadway and Park, so there were millionaires around. Supposedly Winona Ryder was hiding in that area from the media because of intense shoplifting, you know, at Avenue Saks. Okay. When I used to do my vocal cries, I would go underneath where the apartment, well, where the whole entire, there were lofts. So it was like 7 floors or 5 floors. I think 5 floors. I don't know how many floors. I'll figure it out later. You can look it up on Google. It was more than maybe 5, maybe 6, maybe 7. I don't know. Maybe there's an attic. I don't know. But I would go into the basement where the laundry room was, and I had this pretty serious voice coach that was an opera singer. So in voice class, they could tell if you were working on it or not, whether you're going to get an A, B, or C. So the vocal cries had to go like this. Oh. And then we would mutate that with, let's say, a speech, right? Oh, okay. John for me and spur my dole revenge, right? And it was like calling over Central Park or something. I was on 21st Street, and it was loud. And I did it during the day, probably lunchtime. There was a barber that lived upstairs from the basement, catty corner, or like kind of like in between our studios. He had his own salon. So when he was cutting hair, he could hear me doing these vocal cries so that I could get on a level if I needed to hold my own on Broadway on Chorus Line or something. So I could hold my own. That's what they taught us. They taught us to hold our own. I did it as much as I could, at least at lunchtime around that time. Finally, the door kicks open, and there's a guy, looks like, I would probably say Italian, I don't know. Probably that, or maybe distant Puerto Rican, I have no idea. Mad as HE double hockey sticks. And he has a screwdriver in his hand, and he's basically, I'm gonna kill you if you don't, and he's saying it like meaner than you could, you know, he was pretty mad. So I just kind of stepped back, put a chair there in front of me, and said, do you realize what you just did? So he's down there in the basement, and I'm, you know, right next to me is this bucket of paint that they're using, you know, to stucco the walls of the basement area, to revamp the basement area. And he's standing there with a screwdriver. He's just come down from his barber shop, and he's upset. And he's like, you know, this was like 2001. I don't know the month, but I don't remember when. It was probably after September 11th. You could hear the street, noisiness of the street and everything like that, and people walking around. I said, do you realize what you just did? You know, he kicked in the door. He's saying, you know, I'm going to kill you, and he has a screwdriver. You know, if you don't shut up, I'm going to kill you. So I backed up, and it was like a school desk down there. They had a little school desk. You could sit in the school desk and study. And so I backed up, and I said, okay. So I didn't do any more vocal cries in that certain area anymore. I don't think I reported it. I may, knowing me, I may have, because he said he was going to kill me. You know, like, what if I was down there, you know, doing laundry, you know, because there's a laundry room down there too. I told Chris about it. He was a Navy guy that was about to graduate on his 3rd year at the Actor Studio Drama School, New School. And he was going to go into Alexander. It's Alexander technique. It's very, very much about vocal stuff, but it's also about the body, aligning the body so that the voice can free itself, will resonate. You know, there's no glottal stops and you're just like speaking perfectly and resonating. So he just kind of laughed. And I almost asked him, I was like, where do you do your vocal cries? Because I didn't hear any vocal cries anywhere. Who knows where people did them? I think some people could rent. Marjorie would talk about, she was my professor at UNT, she would talk about how you had to rent your space to do your rehearsals. You know, either it'd be dance, which dance we would just go to the dance school. We did Alvin Ailey the first year, modern, right? And you just go to the school. But vocal, hey, people don't want to hear that. So you can rent like this music room, if you can afford it. You can rent the music room, go in and do your vocal exercises just as if you were working on a trumpet or, you know, a flute, or if you're working on drums or guitar or electric guitar or whatever, you would have to rent probably a room and do that. Probably not a hotel, it'd actually be a music room. I think NYU had them, but my music teacher never told us anything about that. There was never like, well, you want to rent a room, here's some, you know, blah, blah, or they should have had rooms, because they had a jazz school that went to the New School University. This is before they moved to Pace. Anyway, that happened. Now we're talking about kind of crime. So in Euless, I lived on like the 3rd floor of this place called Camden Oasis. It has another name now. I think it's Oasis, but it's something else. I don't think it's Camden something. I think it's I use that name for a book. Character named Samuel Camden, or Jonah Samuel Camden III. But the apartment was called Camden Oasis. And I lived on the 3rd floor. And so below me there was a guy that loved to listen to rap music. It was a white dude. It was kind of, I guess they would call him like someone that would like Vanilla Ice or whatever. But he'd listen to the rap music, and that kind of would make me mad. So sometimes I'd stomp on the roof, which I shouldn't have done. And then he'd listen to Metallica sometimes, and he had like these brothers or something. I don't know if they were dealing with a meth lab or they were cooking stuff in their sink or how they were making their money to pay for the place, but they were kind of noisy. There was weird things going on the racquetball court, like women going in there, and like I don't know if they were playing racquetball or what was going on, but this guy was kind of bossy. He kind of had like this northern kind of feeling. I don't know. It doesn't mean they were from the South. I don't know. But I had just got back from New York, and I'd go to the laundry room late at night, and I was a big jogger. So I jogged during the day, go to UTA, I was studying to be a teacher, and then I would have various jobs, like I worked at Portodorama restaurant in Dallas, downtown Dallas, and other factory places and other restaurants, and Dream Cafe and things. I'd take the bus. No, I'd take the train, the Trinity Express into Dallas, and then I would just walk there, you know. If it was the other one, I think I might have taken a bus. I don't remember. Or no, I had my bike. I had a bike. I had a mountain bike. It's a long story, but anyway, one time I dropped a weight on the top of the ceiling, and a little bit later got my clothing and went down the stairs, and he comes out running. This guy was like a Stanley Kowalski type, but on something, and he holds his hand out, and he's got a knife in his hand like this. His hand's flat. And I don't know if he said anything to me. At that point, I just kind of backed away and slowly walked off, and then I called the police. The police showed. I told them, I said, look, he pulled a knife on me. And they said, okay, so what did he do? No, because I was still alive. And I said, well, he had a knife, and he was holding it. And they said, well, how was he holding it? And I was like that. It's like, yeah, so he was showing you your knife. You know, what do you want us to do? We can't do anything. Be quiet. Don't throw the weight on the ground. You know. Well, I told him that later on. I was mad, and he was they were really noisy, and I guess I threw a weight down on the ground to see if they'd be quiet. You can't really do anything if it's not a condominium. So they just kind of left. The guy was fine until finally there was a thing where the Nutri-Grain bar, and I lost my mountain bike, and I had to jump over a fence like raised in Arizona, and I'd come to this flag that's waving Pash Jesus and white and red letters, and I'm realizing, okay, I don't think I made this path myself. Yeah, I got in trouble over a Nutri-Grain bar, but I had to actually run on foot, and I lost my mountain bike too. It was chained to the thing. I was chased off by grocery clerks over 50-cent Nutri-Grain bar. I guess, you know, I guess so. The question is, there's always that flag waving. So the night that I had to run from the grocery store, this is like when I was probably in late 20s. I'd already come back from New York. I had bought cookie dough, ramen noodle, and I think a buy one get one free Nutri-Grain bar, and one didn't get away. That means if he would have got me, it would be over a Nutri-Grain bar. But I'm not gonna lie. But I'm not gonna also, you know, incriminate. But I was barely. It was weird. It was a weird year. Look at 2001 or 2002 stock market. Look at see people struggled. It was like a COVID thing. Nobody would go out. Everyone was afraid, you know, because of September 11th, 2001. This was almost like a year later, though, but it was a little shaky. People still went to restaurants, but it got weird. The market got weird. Yeah, cookie dough, a Nutri-Grain bar, and some ramen noodle with a buy one, get one free Nutri-Grain bar that got me running. Anyway. Chucky. Bring in the shoes. I know. Sorry about that. Yeah, boy.
Got to be trained to do it now.
Well, it's a better idea. All right. This is what I got.
Yeah, I was gonna say
This right here. That stuff right there.
Yay.
So I got a bunch of the topping stuff too. All right.